All right, everybody, hello. We got some literal equations examples here, 6 of them. Okay, and I'm going to try to whiz through these to fit into YouTube's 15-minute time limit. Okay, here we go. Number 1, solve for b. Okay, so we are solving this equation for b, which means, again, our answer needs to be getting b by itself and canceling out all the other letters and numbers on that side. Okay, so again, first thing I do is I locate, where's my letter b? There it is right there. I have to cancel out the terms that are on the same side as the b, okay? And so that means this mx, okay? And that's 2 letters, right? 2 letters, m and x. But the 2 letters are multiplied, right? M times x. And what's really nice, we're actually going to be able to do this in one step, okay? Look, mx, okay? They're multiplied together, which makes them a single term, okay? Terms that are multiplied together, even though it's 2 different letters, that's a single term. And if it's a single term, I can cancel that by subtracting the whole term at once. 1mx minus 1mx equals 0mx. Cancels. Okay? So it's really nice here. And I do the same thing to the other side. Okay? And so b is by itself here on the right. And it's okay that it's on the right side. Okay? It doesn't really matter which side it's by itself on, but as long as it's by itself on one side, that's great. That's the goal. Okay? So y minus mx, again, I talked about in the last video, like those are all different unknown values that I don't know what they are. So I can't combine them at all. So I just have to leave them as it says, y minus mx. Squeeze that in here. Y minus mx, okay? And that's as simply as I can write that answer without knowing what any of the variables are, okay? So I would write this as b equals y minus mx. Number 2, solve for y. X plus y, all divided by 2, equals z. Okay, now I want to solve for y here. Now here's my y, okay? And I want to get that letter by itself, okay? So that's your goal. It's good to keep the goal in mind as you do these, okay? So I'm keeping this y in mind, and I'm going to cancel out these other terms that are on the same side as the y, okay? And now I want to first cancel out this divided by 2. Okay, that's what I have to cancel out first because I'm not actually able to cancel this x right now because it's part of a fraction and it's something that's also being divided by the 2. So to cancel out this big division by 2, I multiply both sides by 2. Okay, because that'll cancel out that division. So x plus y equals z times 2. I can't combine those because again it's an unknown value times a number, okay? And so I write this as 2z. So now it says x plus y equals 2z, okay? And again, what's my goal? Well, my goal is to get y by itself. And I'm almost there. I have one thing left to cancel, this x that's being added to the y, right? And so it's being added, that's how it's connected to the y. So I think, okay, this x is positive, and so I minus x from both sides to cancel it, okay? So x minus x is 0x, cancels, and so I minus x over here as well. And again, I kind of wrote it like this because I'm not able to combine these, right? 2z minus x, those are 2 different unknown values. So I'm not able to cancel those, okay? So really this right here is going to be all that's left, or just rewriting it, y equals 2z minus x would be my final answer there. All right, moving on. Number 3, solve for a. And this says ABC equals 5. And this is a tricky one, okay? I want to get the a by itself. So the a is here on the left with b and c, and that is equal to 5. So again, you have to think, all right, if I'm getting a by itself, I have to cancel out b and c. But how would I do that? How would I cancel out b and c? Okay, and that would happen through, again, inverse operations, doing the opposite of what's currently being done. And what's currently being done is, it doesn't show it, but these are all being multiplied together, a times b times c, okay? And so you think, what's the opposite of multiplication? That's division, right? So check this out. This is actually really convenient that we can do this. This is all a single term right now, a, b, c. They're all being multiplied. And so that means I can divide b and c at the same time. That's legal, and that'll cancel out both of them. okay? Because it's all connected with the same operation. And so I can cancel out B and C at the same time here by dividing them both, okay? As long as I do the same exact thing to the other side, okay? And I can do that. That's legal. All right, so divide both sides by BC, divide both sides by BC. That helps me to achieve my goal of getting A by itself. And so, right, A is over here. And so on this right side is 5 divided by BC. And again, that's a number divided by two unknown values. So that is 5 divided by BC. That's as simply as I can write it. All right, so 2x plus 4y equals negative 8. And I want to solve for x or get x by itself, okay? And so this is going to require a couple steps here. And so again, there's my x. And so I want to cancel all else that's on that side with it other than the x, okay? And so again, following the same steps as we usually would with solving an equation, I would try to add or subtract first if I can, okay? So this plus 4y, I can cancel with a minus 4y, okay? 4y minus 4y is 0y. That's canceled. I don't want any part of that term over here because I just want x over here. And so that's all canceled now, okay? As long as I do the same thing to the other side, okay? And so when I do that, I'm left with 2x equals negative 8 minus 4y. Now don't write negative 12y, please. Okay, you can't do that. That is not correct. The reason that's not correct is this is not a variable term. This doesn't have a y, and this one does. Okay, so that makes them unlike terms, or not like terms, and so I can't combine these to make it any simpler than just negative 8 minus 4y. I have to kind of keep them separate, okay? Now again, what's my goal? My goal is to get x by itself. I'm almost there. I just have to cancel out this multiplication by 2. And so I divide by 2 to do that. And when I divide by 2, I have to divide everything over here by 2, okay? And you can write it as one big fraction. Here, I'm going to write it as two separate fractions. That's totally fine as well. Okay, that's the same way as saying divide everything by 2, okay? And the reason I wrote it that way is that I can write dividing by 2, I can simplify these. I can actually do negative 8 divided by 2. And I can actually also do negative 4y divided by 2. Even though this doesn't have a y, I can reduce this coefficient, okay? So you can't add or subtract unlike terms, but you can reduce the coefficient if you multiply or divide. Okay, x is by itself, okay, good. And then negative 8 divided by 2 would just be negative 4, right? So that's when I divide my first term here. Then my second term, negative 4y divided by 2. Negative 4y divided by 2. I'm just really dividing the coefficient. So negative 4 divided by 2 would be negative 2, but it has the y with it as well. Okay, so there are times when within literal equations where you can simplify. Okay, it's mainly just with dividing and multiplying. Okay, so just be on the lookout for that. Okay, you should reduce when you can. Okay, but yeah, there's an example of that. Okay, 5. Solve for w. A equals 2 times the quantity L plus w. Okay, now tricky one here. Now what a lot of kids are going to want to do first here is distribute. And you can, because that's what we kind of taught you at first here, is when you see distribution, you want to do that, okay? But literal equations kind of follow a different set of rules, okay? So here's something that might be easier, okay? Again, what is distribution? Distribution is multiplying this 2 times a group, right? And so normally I would times both of these by 2. But think about it, multiplying by 2, okay, I could cancel that right now, okay? Because it's saying 2 times this group. So what if I divided both sides? I guess it would be dividing everything. What if I divided by 2? Okay, if I divided both sides by 2, right, this times 2 would cancel. Okay, this is totally legal. And what this will do is it'll make it a little simpler for us later on in the problem. Okay, so dividing the number that you're distributing by is an okay way to cancel that out. And so if I do that, what do I have left? Okay, I have left just what was in this group, L plus W. And I no longer have to write it in parentheses because I'm not distributing anything anymore. That canceled, okay? But on the left side here, I just have this a divided by 2. Again, I don't know what a is, so that just stays a divided by 2. I can't simplify that. Okay. Now, I didn't mention it, but what's my goal? Well, my goal is to solve for w, or get w by itself. Okay. And so that's why I divided by 2 first, because w is over here, and I want to cancel the other things that are over there. And I did the tough part first. Okay. So now all I have is it's this L that's over here as well. Okay. So I want to cancel out that L, and it's being added to the W. And it's positive L. You don't see a negative out there. So I'm going to minus L from both sides to cancel it. Okay. L minus L is 0L. Cancels. I have W, and I'm kind of switching the side that it's on with the equal sign, and that's fine. But the answer is just going to be all that's over here. Okay, so think about it. It was A over 2 that was already over there, but I also minused L from both sides here at the end. So it's going to be A over 2 minus L. A over 2 minus L. Okay? There we go. Last one, number 6. Solve for x. 2 over x equals y. Now this is a tricky one. I saved this for last because this type of problem really tricks kids up. Here's what kids try and do first, and I'm going to explain why this isn't quite right. Kids try to multiply both sides by 2. Okay? Do you see why they would do that? Kids often try to do that because they see, oh, this is a fraction, which means division, and 2 divided by x, so timesing by 2 will cancel out that division, okay? And I understand why kids do that, and that's a really easy thing to think, okay? Now here's the reason that wouldn't work. If I times both sides by 2, again, if I'm thinking, okay, that's going to cancel out the 2, that's actually not true. That won't cancel this 2 because when this is saying 2 divided by x, okay? So the thing that's being divided, right? X is actually what I'm dividing by, okay? So what'll actually, mathematically, what'll actually be left if you do this is 4 over x equals 2y, okay? When you multiply something from both sides, you actually multiply it by the top of the fraction, and then the bottom still remains. So that would not be a productive step because that does not cancel out the 2 like I would want, okay? So that is not something that you should do first. So a lot of kids think that, but if it was flipped around, x divided by 2 equals y, that would be an awesome thing to do because that cancels the thing that's on the bottom, okay? And so look, this is actually going to be a lot harder than it looks because my first step here, I really only have one option, okay? And it's unfortunate. My goal here is to solve for x, so I want the x to be by itself. And the thing is, there's really not a nice and neat way that I can cancel out this 2 in just one step and be done with it, okay? Because it's on top of the fraction and x is on the bottom, okay? Now the big, really tough part of this is that x is on the bottom, and x will remain on the bottom of a fraction. Fractions are so tricky to deal with because they have kind of 2 different parts to them, the top and the bottom. And x is going to remain on the bottom of a fraction unless I directly get it out of there. So here's what I have to do first, okay? X will remain on the bottom of this fraction until I cancel it out directly. So it seems counterproductive and different than what I've done in the other ones. I kind of said, don't touch the variable that you're solving for. But you have to get it out of that bottom of the fraction, okay? That's the only way that this can work, okay? So I have to times both sides by x. And so what am I left with when I do that? I'm left with 2 equals y times x, or writing them in order, x times y. And so I did that, and x isn't quite by itself yet, but it's a lot closer than it was, right? It's no longer on the bottom of a fraction, and now I can just do my one final step and get x by itself, right? Because x is on the right side now, and I think, okay, what can I do to get x by itself over here? And that's just canceling out the times y, right? It's saying x times y. So if I divide both sides by y, x will then be by itself, right? And so that cancels. And what am I left with? I'm left with just x equals 2 divided by y. And that's it, right? X is by itself. That's my goal, and I'm done. Okay. Now those are some tricky ones. Okay. Again, this is probably one of the trickier parts of Algebra 1 is these literal equations. Okay. But I hope that even made a little bit of sense to you. I can put additional videos up here of problems like this if you want. But for now, we'll stick with that. Okay. So good job. Thanks.